Cigar DM. He wants to discuss how long should an individual run their campaign for. And so the table breakers have this ball in the court, and you are in the jury. So let us start with tonight's panel. We have the Cigar DM, Kai, Jade, Baron G Rock, and Bruce, the GM. You see his hands only. Anyway, go ahead, Cigar DM. Take it away.
Well, tonight I want to bring up the topic of how long a session, not a session, how long a campaign should last. I have heard that the most modern sessions only last up to seven times gathering. Where in the past, I prefer games that go for at least a year, 1 through 15, 1 through 20 levels is my preferred. So I'm wondering, when should a DM say, okay, the story has ran itself long enough. I need to end it. So tonight I will start with Kai.
What? Yeah, me. Game length. Let's see here. Um, Honestly, I don't have a dedicated length. I have when the story comes to a logical conclusion. So that may be 3 to 4. No, let's be honest. Months to a year or two before the logical conclusion comes. And the logical conclusion always ends up being that point when it's like, hey, players, what more do you have to do? Do you have any ambitions or goals? And if the answer they get back with, because it's usually after the climactic point where they've managed to defeat the evil bad man who is evil and out to conquer the world, and or just is a bad politician, and they cleaned him out, and now they've saved the world and or political party, and now they're all like, cool, now what do we do? And at that point I look at them and go, I don't know, what do you do? And if the party goes, I've got no idea, and at that point, well, it's time to put those characters away and make new ones, make a new game. Because obviously, if nobody has enough motivation to give their own story without me having to come in and go, and then suddenly here comes the Doctor Doom walks in there and kicks your shit in and gives you a new storyline. If you aren't motivated, you don't deserve a campaign. Start making new characters, make new motivations. We'll find something better to do. That's how it should. I mean, that's how I know it's going to be end. When I'm unmotivated and when the players are unmotivated, that's when it's over.
That is more than fair. Do you do homebrew or do you do modules?
Modules are for lazy fucks. There you go.
Oh, there's that answer. All right, I will move on. Baron G Rock.
Typically, when it all depends on what the players are feeling. I mean, you can read the table. If they look like they're bored, they're not interested in the game, that's usually a good sign, depending on, doesn't matter how long you're running it. If you're not able to capture their attention and keep it, then you need to move on to something else. Throw that campaign out, just let it, and just move on with the next one. Uh, that's typically the ways that I gauge it. Sometimes it can be 6 to 8 sessions. Sometimes it could be a year or better. It just depends on that feedback that you're getting from your players.
All right. And moving on to Jade, unless there's anything else you want to say.
Hmm?
No, we're good.
I'm going to mirror a lot of the same sentiments both Kai and G-Rock have. If the players are not engaged or not feeling immersed into the story anymore, and they're playing with the phones every session, maybe it's time to move on to something else, because maybe the story has run its course, or maybe the people just aren't that interested. Um, they're really good signs that it's time to move on. I mean, I've run games from 1 month, one session to 2, almost 3 years. I've run levels from level 1 all the way up to level 45, level 50 something in 3.5. But the one thing that's always been there is player interest. Now, that's, the player interest is one thing, but the GM also has to be interested in the story. The GM has to believe or at least be interested enough to tell a story. Otherwise, it's time to pass the torch. And speaking of pass the torch,
All right, Bruce.
All right. Well, I'm not exactly a person that enjoys a short game. I'm not even into one shots. I get into a game system and I start reading it, and my thoughts are I want to see how this does for long term play. And I probably jump the gun on a lot of that. But when I sit down to play with a group at first level, I really want to start off at first level and I want to go all the way up until the upper tiers. And I mean like 17th, 20th, 21st, whatever. I think Garrett was involved with us whenever we were doing Rise of the Rune Lords. And I don't know what level he topped at, but I know we hit the upper teens.
17, I think, is what I was.
Yeah. And so you sit down with me, and I don't sit down to game with people that I am only passing interest gaming with. Even a guy like Russ, who probably pissed me off more than his fair share, I like him enough to sit down with him for 3 to 5 hours every Monday that I could. And I wanted to play. I wanted him to play in my game. So whenever I sit down, I'm going for the upper limit. I'm going for I want to play to seriously high level, to obscenely high level. And the last campaign I ran before the current invasion campaign, it was 3.5 years before the table pretty much got flipped by the players because I was throwing a bunch of stuff at them and they were wanting to have time to sit back. I want to craft for 2 months. I want to do this. I want to do that. And we were just kind of not really feeling it. And there was one player in general that he was just really fighting me on a lot of stuff. And I felt I'm losing control of my table. And I didn't try to fuck him out of a good time, but I want to get back in a dungeon. So I started making it to where I was being very documentative, like, hey, we have a Voxer, we have Discord. If you want to fucking craft while you're not at the game table and we're resting, yes, we're going to spend 3 weeks in town resting between game sessions. But don't fucking waste my time for 3.5 hours at the goddamn table when I could be running instead of having you pour through the goddamn ultimate equipment guide. Fuck you, you lazy cunt. I just got really pissed. And I just lost my shit, and we all pretty much decided this campaign's over. We were the third act into the Slumbering Czar saga, which is a great campaign. And because of my actions partially, I probably won't ever get there again. So I'm a little pissed about that, but at the same time, the table I have right now is a little bit better off, and I don't have so much friction. It's also a little smaller because I had 8 to 9 people on the other table, and I don't need that. I need 6 or less, 6 to 4 for the right balance. You get 8 people, and suddenly Pathfinder or any new D&D, any non-TSR D&D, the combat rounds are 10 minutes before you get back to that player again, before you get back to the DM. And I don't like that. Be done with your combat round within a minute. That's what I want. And so I have all these ideas in my head, and that's probably what shorts my games. That's probably what cripples me as a DM. Because I want you to already know your spells. I want you to know what your character's capable of. I don't want to have to wait for you to pour through the book.
Oh, what does sleep do? Oh, what does fire shield do? Can I use this spell from a book you don't allow?
Fuck you. And I just kind of lose my shit. And as I get older, I have less and less tolerance for players that want to be casual about a game. We sat down, you should have an idea of what your character is capable of. If you've got magical spells, you should have an idea for what they do when you cast them. And you shouldn't be telling me things like, I need to check out this feat or my thief ability. You've been sitting at my table for 2 years. You didn't take notes?
No,
That's more than fair.
I can caveat off of that. One question for you, Bruce, just a little bit of one. Is it okay if I rolled if I confirmed a hit, but say go on to someone else while I calculate damage?
That is acceptable.
Okay.
As long as I see that the player's trying, that they're not
Okay.
trying to waste everybody else's time. That's the problem that I have 10 out of 10 times. I'm not the only one that's trying to be entertained here. And it's my YouTube channel is a shit show. I get it. But I'm going to tell you that when you gather with us, first off, please don't be late. If you're going to be late all the time, please find another game. Or tell us, can we start at 2:00? Because I get off at 1:30. Okay, I won't expect you at 12 to be sauntering into Discord. That's what I want. I want people to be in the mood to game when we all sit down to game. And that's what I want. And so if you're there and you've got to take 20, 30, 40 seconds to tally damage, and so I'm only one person away from you on the roster when you give me the answer, you give me the sign that you're ready to give the answer for damage. Okay, that's good. If I get all the way around the table in initiative order and I'm back to you and you're still there trying to figure out with your slide rule and Apagus what the fuck you're doing, you are probably punching above your weight on this game.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I'm not coming from a position of I'm a professional dungeon master with 30 years experience. No, I'm just saying I want to be fair to my other players.
Right.
Because they're I don't like it when you sit down to a game and combat starts, and Max hit this right on the nose last night. He says, in the middle of combat, players start telling each other what their tactics are. No, fuck you, shut the fuck up. You guys need to understand that when combat starts, the only things I want to hear out of you is what your initiative is, what actions you're doing, and that's it. You do not coordinate attacks, because otherwise you're going to see the intelligence of the bad guys ramp up tenfold, and I'm going to pull every dirty trick out of the book to screw you over. So don't be pulling that BS on me.
All right, now.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean
you're good. I completely understand. I'm sure most EMs have had that moment where, like, really? You didn't know what you're going to do before it was your turn? I get wizards have wizardly shit, but if you're an archer or a fighter, all you gotta do is shoot or swing. It's not that fucking hard. I understand. With that being said, now, session-wise or length of the campaign, do you guys find that certain systems work better than others to run longer campaigns? There's like Dark Heresy seems to me to be more story-based than it was combat-based, at least the way that my DM ran it. So that's my question for you guys. Is there other systems that you find promote longer campaigns than others? I will start with Kaigan.
All games can be long, all games can be short. Honestly, I've made games that are enjoyable from just any system I bother to run with. It's the amount of effort you want to put in as a GM. Most players will take whatever energy you give in and then give it back to you. If you're lazy, they're going to be lazy. If you go in going, I'm going to run only a 3-4 adventure game, they're going to see that, they're going to feel that energy, and they're only going to give you back 3-4 sessions of game. So if I can pull damn near any game out and run a pretty solid game without having to worry about how long it's going to run for. It's going to come down to how good I'm doing, how good they're doing. And you know what? Sometimes I'm just having a shitty campaign. And you know what? That's on me. And sometimes my players are just going, I'm not feeling this. That's on me too. That's also partially them. But honestly, unless you go in with a game that's like designed to be a complete and total joke game, and you can tell a joke game when you look at it from the cover. And it's like when the tin says this is pretty much a game where it's all about wackiness, you're going in going, this is a beer and pretzels. We're doing this because we need to decompress from a real campaign. And that's going to be a 2-3 sessioner. And you walk away from it going, I'm not putting much energy in. I'm not going to get invested. I'm not going to get anything out of this. Besides, well, that was a fun 1 month. That was a fun 2-3 sessions. That was good. Let's go play a real game now. And then everybody goes and plays some, now that we got all the silliest out of us, we can go and play a real game and be a bit more serious. So that way we don't get the pork chop necromancer who helped stop all barbecue from happening. Shit like that.
Sorry, I just had a mental image of that. Okay, that necromancer is probably a vegan, but that's besides the point. I'm gonna go with Jade. Let's go with you next.
As far as like systems that promote longer games, I haven't really found one specific one that promotes a longer game than the other. It's more about game master preparedness and how much effort they want to put into their story, or how much the players want to build onto the story, because tabletop gaming, or at least tabletop role-playing games, are a cooperative game. You're not, it's not a players versus dungeon master or players versus system. I mean, it can be players versus players, but that shouldn't happen. But I mean, you have to work together as a GM and a player to make the story. And as long as you have that cooperation going both directions, a story, no matter what system, can last years, months. If there's really bad cooperation, then it lasts maybe minutes. But as far as the systems I run, I mean, I've run 3.5, 3.0. I've played in Advanced. I've done Pathfinder, Starfinder, and I don't really see any of them like outshining one another for length of time in the game system. So that's my answer. It really depends on how prepared you are and how much effort you're going to put into it.
All right, Baron G-Rock.
Well, with this, it kind of goes back to what I said before. If the players are interested, it's going to keep going. But it's also with the DM's level of interest also. So if you have a DM that, has been, let's say, doing, Pathfinder, third ed, even second or first ed, and, the group's just not feeling it for whatever reason, the DM may not be feeling it also, which is, we talked about that transference. They've got that energy of like, well, he's not really into it. So, so, I mean, the ones that I've seen is ones where the DM really has a grasp of the world. I'm going to use Exalted, my buddy Todd. He has his world so intertwined between every session that there are sessions where we're in those sessions that he's making comments to, and you just look at him and go, really we're doing, no, we're not talking about that one, no. It's the thing is, it may not necessarily be full on, combat, but it's also telling the story. Combat does not a story make. Combat is a way to, get a conflict resolution, I guess is the best way to put it. You build the story to the conflict, you have a fight, conflict, the resolution happens, and then there's more story. Or a lot of people think that, oh man, I've had a really bad day. I just want to kill everything. And the DM's like, okay, well, here's 1,000 kobolds. Go to town. And that does not a game make, because it may be fun for that one player. The other players are like, oh, I'm so tired of fighting. I want to do other things. So things like, I would say things like Dark Heresy, Exalted, even old World of Darkness, stuff like that, where there's a lot more roll play as opposed to role play. The ROLE, not the ROLL play, I should say. That is where your bread and butter is going to be, to keep your players interested. And the longer they stay interested, the longer your game's going to be.
All right. And Bruce.
Certain games are really great for short-term play. One that comes to mind immediately is the first or second edition of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, where you have a D6 and D10 or percentile dice, and then you have a few fate points to keep your character alive a little longer. But really, the game is not meant for more than 5 to 7 sessions, because it's a high lethality system. And there's nothing wrong with high lethality systems. In fact, I wish more people ran high lethality systems, because that way the player base, after a couple of years, might realize that smart table play is strongly encouraged. But a lot of games today, and I'm going to look right at WotC for this, because they're the culprit. They're the ones that are encouraging this shit, to where they want to have people who want to act cute or make videos or do non-game related things with the game. They're the ones that are ruining the hobby. And you have poor DMs out there that encourage it. You have really, you've really destroyed the player base with poor decision making and books and such. And like I was saying in the chat, you have a lot of people that they get on the games and they just want to act. They don't want to really have to learn rules. They don't want to learn the spells, what the duties of a ranger is. How am I supposed to play this paladin? They don't want to get involved with that. And so they've kind of diluted the player base by bringing in people that are going to forcibly divide what we have as a tradition for the past 30 or 40 years. And so you have games like Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which strongly encourage smart RP and good luck with your dice, because even with good tactics, you could fall apart. And you have other games like Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, which it's meant for long-term play, but with the current player base, it rarely gets above 6 or 7 sessions. That's the average length of a campaign that's being reported to Roll20 and through other organizations. But you could run a previous edition or Burning Wheel or any other game for long-term play. And when I say long-term play, I want to say probably 150 hours at the table or more. And for a lot of DMs, their game really doesn't start until the 7th or 8th adventure, where the players get out of the first act. I don't know how you guys are, but typically you're not going to reveal to the players everything that's going on when they're 6th level or below. You're not going to do that. You're not going to spoil your campaign or reveal your deepest secrets and all the things you're going to spring on them. And you're not going to show them the big bad, because otherwise you're going to go,
Let's go take off the head of the snake.
and a group of 6th level players go after like a ancient red dragon. Good luck, fuckers. And you're not going to have that. So most DMs would prefer to run a long-term campaign, unless they just are in it for the lulz, and then they're running a game like Warhammer or, insert short-term game here, Pug Finder or whatever you might find to be your short-term fix. That's my own opinion.
Oh no, that's more that works. I completely understand. This is my point of view, and I'm starting to wondering the thing is I got three kids, and I've noticed of their generation is their attention span is not 30 seconds. Everything has to be 30 to 60 seconds, or they lose attention. So I'm wondering if the promotion of that, being social media, cartoon clips, whatever, has lowered a person's ability to sit in one spot longer than X before they get bored and want to move something else on. Kai,
How old are they?
my youngest is 11.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. I was just wondering because it starts to level out at a certain point. It'll get better. It's going to get better.
well, I also noticed people our age that, other than having ADD, something grabs their attention while they're doing something else and they forget what they're originally doing. So I wonder if it's a generational thing or just the American education. But that's just me. Okay. With that being said, when we start a campaign, do you guys like the slow burn or boom, an asteroid just hit the side of the world, it's gone to shit, what are you going to do? I'll start with Kai.
I like a slow burn, so that way you feel like you're actually part of the world that I'm about to blow up. I want a level or 2 or 3 that makes you feel like you're part of the world, that you're actually in it. Because unfortunately, as much as I actually hate Roland Emmerich films, you really just can't start with, well, everybody, you're all having a nice little day, and then all of a sudden, boom, town's on fire, everyone's dying. What do you do? What are we supposed to do? I don't know. Do we have any emotional attachment? I don't know. The moon's falling on you. Oh shit, what the fuck do you do? Dragons appear. Fuck. Oh fuck. And there's some GMs who do that to you. It's like, bam, get the fuck out. Everything's on fire. Try to survive this shit. And if your party has absolutely zero emotional investment in the world or have no connections to the world, they'll just be like, okay, this is cool. Do we just fight it? I don't know. Do you fight the giant red dragon? I don't know. I've been playing with character for a whole 5 minutes. So I guess I'm going to die or make another character. Or, because there's sometimes where that's a good way of starting a game. And there's sometimes where you just want to spend some time to actually build up and have some camaraderie between your party of adventurers before you hit them with Lord Soth walks onto the battlefield, his giant mace, his undead army behind him. Well, fuck me. Yeah, you need to actually work a bit to make the players actually enjoy the world. I know for some GMs that's kind of hard to do because they're reading from a script. I don't know. Let me check to make sure my module is the right book. And oh shit. Fuck. I'm so sorry. Um, uh, Bad things happen to you, and some kobolds appear, and they have a trap. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't going to say that out loud. Roll to see if you find a trap, and that's literally how most trash GMs seem to operate. Or no. I'm sorry. This isn't Roland Emmerich. This isn't you just booting up Neverwinter Nights and just loading up the game, and you get to go wander around a little bit, and then suddenly everything's on fire, and now you have to go out and go become heroes again. No, you need to have some time to actually, unless you got players who are actually competent, coherent players who have already built themselves, some storylines, some interactions, some background. They've all linked themselves together. At that point, fuck it. That's when you can just hit them with a freight train at the start. But with your average group of wieners, of just loser players who all kind of come in there and go, I am playing a first level ranger, and that's all I am. Until you give me motivation, I am a first level ranger. Oh, and my friend over here, he's a first level wizard. Oh, fuck. You got anything more to it? His name is Bob. Fuck you. Oh, fuck off. Okay, cool. Now we gotta waste time. But if they come in and go, no, we've been best friends. We have tactical, and we're battle buddies. He's my sniper. I scope that guy over there. He's our infiltrator. That guy over there. He's our guy who is like our walking Swiss Army knife. Fuck yeah. Those guys know what they're doing. Fuck. We could just jump in and we know we're gonna have a good game. But how often do you have players who are actually competent and know teamwork from day one, from session one? Next to never. Don't count on it.
Okay. All right. Jade.
So I think it actually depends on the table. And it's the GM's job to read the table and know the players he's inviting to the table. He or she's inviting to the table. For a lot of the players I've had, I could probably just throw them directly into combat, like saying, "Okay, guys, you are level, 2 characters. You've already made those. That's awesome. Um, let's start tonight by rolling initiative." And a lot of them will just, get right into it. Um, but then you have those the players that they might be new to the game, or they may not know everyone at the tables, so they're not going to interact well immediately. So I've experienced both the slow burn and the immediate rise to action games. I've actually run both types of games. I actually prefer to start a lot of players off at level 0. And now I say level 0 in 3.5. What I would do is I'd say you were level 0, a commoner, an adept, expert, warrior, whatever, until you hit 500 experience points. Then you get to level 1. And this is to build the backstory of the players working with one another as characters to experience the world and experience gameplay together. And it gets the rudimentary parts of the game under wing really quickly. But I've also had campaigns that start up at level 5, and we immediately get right into action. It's like, you guys traveled together for all these years, and we start the game in front of a job post board where you guys are picking jobs and what you're going to go do. So it comes down to the GM knowing the players he's invited to the table, and it. You really got to be a good judge of what you have and what you don't have. So yeah, and that's my take on it.
Baron.
I what I like to do is I tend to do the slow burn with some pops. So you'll get that slow burn, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like if you think of a fuse. Sometimes a fuse in it has a little bit more material there, and it flares up bigger. And I tend to like to do that where it's a slow burn, and then flare ups, and then it kind of goes back down. It also does tend to give the PCs a feeling of complacency because they're like, oh well, that was bad. That was not cool. That was horrible. Okay, we're past the bad part. Where they don't realize that this is going to about 15 kegs of TNT, and half the world's going to burn. But all they're getting is little pop ups and flares that they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. So and that's the way I enjoy it. I like to kind of intermix the two. I kind of we call that intermixing it, just because you have the flare ups there where you get a big flash and then it calms back down. So yeah.
All right, that sounds fun. And Bruce.
I really don't like starting a campaign off with a fight. I'd rather have the campaign start off after we've created characters where the players are knowing each other and they are kind of discussing things and they are able to get their feet on the ground as much as starting off a campaign with a Death Star chasing a Corellian Corvette and overtaking it, and dragging him in a tractor beam, as much as they do that, as much as a lot of published campaigns start with that, I don't feel like that's always the best. I would much rather go with a slow burn, but I've run a lot of campaigns, published or off of my own ingenuity or creativity, however you want to look at it. My own lazy GMness, as Kai would say. You run both types, but I think I have a better appreciation for the slow burn because, like I mentioned in the chat, I do like a game that does have some period of tense anxiety with not a lot of physical combat. That part's coming, but you're going to spend like maybe levels 6 through 10 where you're doing a J. Michael Straczynski Babylon 5 arc and you're political maneuvering. You're getting everybody ready for, whatever invasion will happen, or you're trying to gird up your forces and bluff your way into some decent peace talks, and until you are at a point where you have a respectable fleet and you can go smash. And I would prefer a lot of games, a lot of adventures had that sort of slow burn, that wick that you knew was lit, that was building up to this explosive crescendo. But I don't think a lot of GMs are confident enough to do that. Although, if they would just note down in previous narratives or previous books or adventures where it worked, if they would just copy notes and try it themselves, they'd probably do pretty well at it. But a lot of people don't, they get scared. And so it's just one of those things that a lot of people will shy away from a slow burn and they go for that. I'm going to get my fast food meal. Here's my fries for my players. Here's my McDonald's fries and my biggie drink, and we will satisfy their hunger for combat, their lust, and then I can do 8 minutes of RP with them, and hopefully Timmy in the back seat, the barbarian rager, won't decide that he has to kill the merchant that they're trying to negotiate for the map to this location for the hidden temples of Sojanth or whatever it might be. That is my preference. I need a slow burn campaign, and I need players that want to love the world they're in. That's the thing. If your players don't like the world, if they don't respect it, it's going to be hard for you to run for them a long-term campaign. And I need them to be amenable with me while I set up all the pieces on the table. I don't need them to knock over, oh, look, there's an orc family, let's kill it. Well, as much as I appreciate whole wanton slaughter and genocide, I can't let the party do it every 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It really does. Me personally, it really depends on what I'm running. If I'm running that I'm something I'm homebrewing, it's going to be out of somebody else's world. I'm terrible at making my own world. I'll be the first one to admit to it. I like jumping into worlds that have already been made. It being Dresden Files or Aragon or some other high fantasy world that already has its meat and potatoes. I'm just adding a little vegetable to the dish, telling my story. But as a whole, I do prefer slow burn. But you also, in my opinion, need to have that Agent Coulson from Avengers moment, where if the group does not have a reason to be together, this is their reason to do it. So I like I said, for the most part, I like slow burns. So with that being said, I guess I need to come up with the next question really quick. What will kill a game? What it being person, it being the module, it being okay, I want them to go left. They really need to go left. Those fuckers went right. What will kill a campaign? That is my next question. I will start with Kai because he looks like he wants to pop.
No, I don't really want to pop it. Usually what kills the game is when you've inevitably made a mistake. Either you've made a mistake, your players have made a mistake, or something's gone wrong. And and they just like walk through something, and you're just like, ah, crap. I know it's just I know it's just a bad, but like I said, if you've set up the entire plot line, the story that use the Babylon 5 idea, you set this massive 3 or 4 arc plot line. It's gonna be amazing, and your party literally just guesses it on session 2, and then solves on session 3. Well, you know what? You fucked up because you let it slip too quick. If they beat shit too fast, that's on you. You fucked it up. If your party just makes the wrong conclusion and dies, well, that's the end of it. I mean, or if you have that one player who's just being a dick, and I as a bad GM don't put my foot down on it and stomp it out, and they drive everybody else away from the table. That kills it because I didn't do my job. I made the story too easy. I made the encounter too easy. My players lost interest too fast. I couldn't hold it. In the end, that becomes on me. And therefore, really it comes down to who kills the campaign fastest, the GM. And yeah, so you have to fuck up before you learn how to not fuck up in the future.
That's more than fair. I remember the first few games I tried to run, it was just hot shit, and it's my fault.
Yeah, I fucked up more than my fair share. I'm happy that I don't fuck them up anymore like I used to, but I still fuck them up. I'm not perfect, and I'll admit that.
All right. I will go with Jade.
So, what kills a campaign? Lack of interest. Phones. Phones kill games. People not being interested in the content that is being presented to them kind of just kills the mood for both the GM and sometimes some of the players. On the flip side of that, if the GM is not coming up with content that's engaging, well, what are they doing? Maybe they need to poll their players. Maybe they need to ask their players, hey, what is it that you're interested in? What is it that you're wanting out of this game? A lot of that comes from session 0. Like when you ask your players, hey, what is the goal for the character you want to build? What do you want to do or accomplish? And the GM is responsible for making story or themes that interest players. And if the interest level is just not there, that's the end of the game. I mean, that just tanks it. Yeah.
Kind
Lack
of a
of
Bill,
interest.
kind of a Bill Paxton moment. Game over, man. Game over. All right,
Pretty much.
Baron G Rock, you're up.
Well, I've seen it go a couple different ways. I've seen GMs by really just screw it up by doing one simple thing you wouldn't think of, and that's giving a certain magic item to a player that probably they shouldn't have. It totally disrupts the game balance. Also, I've seen it on the opposite side where the GM actually has lost interest, and when the GM loses interest, then it just is like, well, time to shut her down. We're not going to play for a little bit. And I have seen it also be a player where a player just has been completely overbearing and essentially makes everyone feel like they're playing a supporting role for him. And I've seen this a couple times, to the point of that I've also seen that the games dissolve, and that they'll pick it back up at a later time, where actually they actually pick it up the next week without that player. It's a way of just kind of moving them out of the game without kind of being a whole dick about it, being like, oh dude, they don't like you, they don't like your game style, they don't like the way that you're doing this, and it's just easier. It's just easier to cut it and say, oh, well, life's happening. People got have to start working Saturdays now or whatever day you're playing. Oh, we got to work late, so we're just gonna stop gaming for a while. And once schedules clear up, we'll pick it back up. Of course, you never pick it back up, but the everyone's there the very next week except for that one person. So there's a lot of different factors. You can't nail it down to just one because every gaming group is unique. Every dynamic is unique. So there are sometimes where you have the perfect storm where the entire game just the players fall apart, the the GM loses interest, and it's just to the point if he loses interest is like, oh, well, you get a belt of battle, and you get a belt of battle, and you get a belt of battle. Oh yeah, by the way, you're all first level, but you still get a belt of battle. It's one of those things that's just kind of like, ugh, and it's or glorious powers, and then now they're able to cast fireball at first level, and the story's not there, and they're just being murder hobos. I mean that's kind of the way that it goes with that. It's just they just turn into murder hobos, and then it's time to move on. So that's that's my 2 cents.
All right, Bruce, we're going to ask for your 2 cents and see where that lands us.
The campaigns that I've been involved with, what's killed a campaign before when I was running in my early days was we would have a tonal shift, and either it was myself during the narrative or the players just got tired of it and they just said, I'm done. I'm done with this campaign. I'm done with this character. I might be done with the fucking hobby, but things in my life are changing. And so the tonal shift kicks in, and instead of them being a good player or retiring, they would instead come to the table with the intent to torpedo it. And that's happened a couple times. There was a few times as a DM where I got way too overbearing. And the Slumbering Czar campaign, I got that way in the last few episodes where I was just trying to struggle to hang on so I could keep running the game. Like, come on, guys, get yourselves ready to go and know what you're going to need to craft, and then let's get back there. And they're wanting to do everything else outside of the dungeon. And so, fine, I mean, you guys are saying you want to quit, we'll quit. And I was at the point of frustration because up until maybe 6 months before that, we were doing good. But this miserable pandemic from China came along, and that fucking upset everybody's schedule. So 8 people were having Saturdays off, and now 5 of them only have Saturdays off. And then worse yet, people are getting upset because their buddies no longer going to be there. Well, I can't do the fastball special without that character there with me. And okay, fine. Can you retrain your character? Can we fix it? And the dynamic of the table shifted completely. And then they were feeling like I was ramping the game up too much. And I thought, I'm not really ramping the game up. I'm running it per book. And this was written in 2012 or 2013. And Pathfinder had barely gotten 5 or 6 tomes out at the time. There was still plenty of crap that Paizo decided to force on you. And everybody wants to have the newest books for the newest power creep for their character. And it just turns into an arms race. And I really hate arms races. That's why I love Pathfinder now, because it's all done. It's over. First edition is a complete game, and I can chop off what I don't need and force you guys to play this game. This limited amount of books is your resources. If you want to play something else, we'll negotiate about it, but more than likely, if it's a Kitsune half tiefling piece of shit bard character, I'm going to kick you out of the game. You're done. I don't want to hear your garbage because you have a really bad idea. I don't want that getting in the ears of my other players. I don't need it. I don't want it at my table. We have dwarves, elves, gnomes, fighters, rangers, paladins, no warlocks. We're good. We don't need the crap. So I try to have a focused campaign because there's a certain tone I have for the campaign, and I try to keep it consistent. And my players, I expect them to respect the table, respect me, respect the others, and respect the game they're playing. But what has killed it for me in the past, I'm trying to avoid that, where it turns into an arms race where the player develops a new spell or a new feat, or another character in him start doing this tactic that just cripples bad guys. Like there's a feat called Team Up, where if a pair of thieves flank a character, a third thief can get in there from the other angle, and he gets the flanking bonuses too, so he can do precision damage. You have three players hacking on one bad guy. That's about 150 to 200 points of damage around, and that'll cripple about everything in the game. I don't know what'll survive it. I'm unaware. So I'm just going to say what can kill a game is being too aggressive as a DM, trying to force the resources on the players. Use this. Don't use this book. That book's crap. Being too overbearing, trying to have an arms race and upgrading your monsters to do more damage, and trying to teach your players to run away. Not all combats need to be faced. You can have a combat potential where, like, you see these 6 characters over there in a fight or in town, but you wisely decide to just drink your wineskin and walk down the other way and not go in that scary alleyway and get your ass kicked. But other players will see that anything on the battle mat's a challenge, and they haven't learned the value of running away and keeping their character alive. So you have a bunch of things that can cripple a campaign because you want to have a balance at the table. And I hate saying the balance at the table because there shouldn't be a balance. It's not a fair game. It's not all characters are created equal. But all players should be able to get along with each other. And the DM should encourage at the table in non-combat play, where like, hey, you guys might want to learn how to fight together, and give them a chance to have an RP moment with a mentor, and he shows them things how to do things, and he gives them the ability to have verbal shorthand. Bless you. And so you have that. And I think if you have rookie or mid-level DM mistakes, you have the best intentions, but you're going to screw up your game if you force them too much on your players. Because most players are free-thinking individuals, and they're going to be like, this guy's too much of a fascist at the table. I'm done. And you lose your table. And I had one for 3.5 years. For 3 years, it was perfect. Up until the piece of shit out of China came. Fuck you, China.
Okay.
I'm a caveat off of that. I will say murder hobos have killed interest in my games as well as killed sometimes my enthusiasm to run as a GM. You can only plan for so much as a game master, and when you've got these min-maxing murder hobos who just want to raffle stop their way through literally every scenario, whether or not it's talking to a merchant or talking to the king of a nation, they just want to raffle stop the room. And to me, that kills my interest in the hobby as a whole. Like the last time I actually played tabletop RPG, I'm gonna say was probably last year in April. I have not actually joined a table or run a table since then because of the raffle stomping a room, and I couldn't bring myself to do it again for a very long time. I am considering, restarting a new game, but I can't stand the murder hobo. I have to be the best min-maxed everything, because it just really kills my interest in the hobby as a whole. So, sorry about the caveat. Back to the cigar DM.
No, the caveat's great. Trust me, I try not to be a murder hobo. I do have my moments. Depends on my day. But as a DM, I truly understand. I need you guys, or not you guys, but my party to get through A, B, and C, where all they see is the big D at the end. And I'm like, no, you guys are going to miss it, but I can't say anything because I don't want to give anything. Yeah. I caught the joke there. Because I don't, there's, A, B, and C has things in the campaign story that are going to be important later on. And if they just go fly from A to D, again, as I said, they miss it and it will shortchange them later on in the campaign. Now, I wanted to answer a quick question out of the comments sections, if I may. I'm going to kill his name, but he can't spell my name correctly either, so I think it's only fair. Jazar asked, as a paid DM, where was it? As a paid DM, can I turn down players if I have X amount of players at the table? The answer is yes, because it was a either society or a venture. They recommend only play anywhere from 5 to 6 people. All the major spots have to be taken. So yes, I can say, come back next week. Hopefully we can fit you in. At the same time, I can also ask somebody, is like, hey, you're bringing too much chaos to my table. I understand that you want to be here. You either A, need to calm down, or B, go run around the store 3 or 4 times and come back. It's okay. We might wait. So that's my thought processing on that one. Now, it's already been talked about a couple different times about having that one person in your campaign that drives everybody nuts. I might have been that person once or twice. There might be a video on Bruce's page with me and another gentleman, using that term
Twice.
loosely.
Twice.
So if you have somebody at your table and he's a great guy, just not the great guy that you need at your table, how do you recommend fixing that situation? I'll start with Jade.
Have an honest conversation with them. Like, hey, your behavior at the table, is causing other players to exhibit X, Y, Z behaviors, or it really comes down to communication. You have to have clear and concise communication with your players as a game master. And if someone is being the problem, you need to take them aside and talk to them about it. And just present the case like, look, I know you're coming here to win D&D every week. My stories aren't about winning D&D, because D&D to me is not a game that can be won. The other players at the table want to play roles within a story, not roll dice to play a game. Now, I know that sounds contradictory, because D20 systems are all about rolling dice to play the game. But what I'm truly meaning is be a role player, not a role player. So really, you need to talk to your players, have clear lines of communication back and forth. And if a player is having a problem with another player, they should be able to come to the DM and say, "Hey, I really have a problem with this player because X." And then it's up to the DM to talk to the other player. So yeah, I think it's clear lines of communication.
All right, let's go with Kai.
Honestly, I've had a lot of bad players, but I don't throw them out as often as I should, only because of the fact that, well, I'm in an environment I really can't throw them out. But it becomes kind of a game where if you just try to minimize their damage as much as humanly possible and work with the players, with the group. And sometimes having that one guy who really is a min-max McMurder hobo who's off there as the ultimate war machine that destroys everything he encounters is not that bad if you can keep him on a leash and keep him distracted off in a corner. You're just like, what's he doing? He's just over there. And we ignore him. And then you just every once in a while throw a bone at him so that way he stays, entertained, he's engaged. You're not yelling at him too much. And because ultimately that player, especially if you get him off in the, away from everybody else, you start talking to him, you find out, well, he's actually enjoying the game too. He just enjoys it in a different way. And so to go caveat off the whole, it's all about communication. But the thing is that confronting someone openly and just making them belittle them right in front of them, that is actually kind of counterproductive, because that person who's causing the problem might not be as much of a problem as you thought he was. but then you talk to him, find out, okay, and then you start to like mediate, fix things, and you can't make everyone happy. It's just that simple. When it comes down to it, you're all there to play the game. He's there to go kill shit, and then you gotta tell him you can't always kill shit. You can't always derail everybody else. And then there will be something to kill. There will be game mechanics for you to solve. Just like there's a guy who loves puzzles, and he can actually solve a puzzle that's not for fourth graders. He can solve a fifth grade puzzle. We need him, and it really just comes down to I've had players who most other GMs would go, I can't stand that guy. I can't. He's terrible. Then I'm like, have you ever tried talking to him? No, I don't. Why should I? I don't. I won't have to dignify or lower myself to that. I'm like, you might find out they're actually not as bad as you think they are, and suddenly everyone's actually having fun at the table, or at least everyone's having fun picking on the min-maxer for a bit, or the min-maxer is beating up on everybody else for a bit, but you're all having it as a group. You have some dynamic interaction because everyone needs to have a thug in the party. It really is what it comes down to. Is somebody's got to carry the big weight around. And as long as the thug realizes that he can't just steer the entire game, you know what? Compromises can be made. Everyone can have fun. I may make fun of the min-maxer, but as long as the min-maxer and the murder hobo knows how to curtail it to the point where it's like, and now the moment you've all been waiting for, the point where we pull Arnold Schwarzenegger out, put him out there, wind him up, and push him out into combat. And we go, what do we do? Oh, no. Our entire job was to get him to this room, and now he's going to kill everybody. Okay. And as long as he knows that's what his job was, and the game can all keep moving forward, it's great. But it's how you salvage a problem character, a problem player, and then work him into being somewhat useful. Or you end up doing what Garrett does. Hey, we're all meeting. This game's going on hiatus. We'll see you all when the game comes off hiatus. Everybody else will meet next week, right? Cool. And that's what you do. And I will admit that while I don't do it very often, I have more than happily gone. Campaigns currently on hiatus. Everybody meet at Perkins, and then we're all at Perkins, and then except for the guy who goes, fine, no game, I'm going home, and then we're all sitting here over a big ass giant dinner, going, you just want to keep playing without that guy? Yeah, who's got dice? And then suddenly you got a campaign going again, and that player just never gets to buy it back. But that's usually the last straw after you've done everything else under your power.
All right, Garrett.
I completely after that rant, I completely forgot what the question was.
What do you do with a problem player? Do you say, hey, we're taking a break, then you tell everybody else, hey, we're really meeting up next Friday? Or do you sit down and talk to them? Or what do you do?
Well, executions are out because we can't do that. We have no way to get to Mustafar, so we can't do that. Throwing stars are out. No, on the serious side. No, seriously, it depends on the player. How big of a disruption are they being? If they've got to the point where they have literally, you've talked to the other player, or the other players have talked to you about him, and they have all said, well, it's either him or us, him or me, and you're getting that from multiple people, then you kind of know where the bread is buttered there, and where you got to go. Now, and it could be a personal conflict between the GM and the player. The way the player plays just may rub you as a GM the wrong way. You're talking about the murder hobos. all kinds of stuff. Even after you've talked to them, they're still doing the same thing. Then that's when you give them the rubber pants, and they go bouncing out the door. Go tell them to go find brain, and they can figure out how they're going to take over the world or something. I don't know, but that typically, communication is number one. Number two is also what the situation is with the actual remaining members of the party, because you do have to take that into account also.
All right. And Bruce, the mid-maxing McMurder Hoboson the Third. Is that German background last name? That sounds a little Scottish to me, but I don't want to be that guy.
I'm the Nazi, the McMurder Hoboson III. How are you doing tonight? After this conversation, we will have a meme review. I have Parrothead, who has dropped bombs on my Discord, so we must have a meme review. What was your question, Connell? I'm sorry.
Where can I find cocaine? Because oh my god. Anyways, what do you do with problem players that cause problems at your table? Do you talk to them? Do you just find a way just to cut them out, or do you pull the plug as you've said you've done before?
I try to work with them at first and try to be very constructive, because you came to the table and you are here for a reason. You didn't come here on our initial meeting. It didn't seem like you were going to be playing dickhead player and being Buddy McFuckerson, his cousin for McMurderson, but the third. But the thing is that you have a lot of people that they go into Blue Falcon mode, and you don't want to have Blue Falcons at your table. You want to have a lot of people that are working together. They're not doing the overt discussing campaign tactics while you're rolling die for the combat and the combat's going on. You don't really want to have that, but you want to have players that get along well together and they play off each other. And they're able to adapt. It might not always overcome, but they're able to adapt at least. And you want to have that. And so I try to work with them. I try to get them on the focus of, let's see what we can do with this campaign. I know you don't like Bobby over here. Bobby annoys you because he breathes through his mouth all the time and he stares at your wife's boobs. I'm sorry about that. We all stare at your wife's boobs. We have to tell you that she has epic boobs. And most players that bring their wives to the table will expect some guys to just stare, because some people have zero social capacity, none. And that's just something that will happen. But we will have a game where you have people at the table that they are toxic to each other, and at a point where there's a point of no return, if I'm just going to say there was this character named Russell and another character named Andrew, and they had a altercation almost to where they almost started throwing punches at the game store. And one of them hit a pillar with his open hand in disgust, but he left after that. And I thought, well, I'm glad he left, because I didn't want to see a fight go on. And it was maybe a week later, we all went to go see this movie called Your Highness, and he presented himself there, and I was like, oh shit, I hope Andrew doesn't show up. And Andrew did not. So I was at least spared a conflict outside of the rave movie house. But we were under the impression that he was removing himself from the game. And then I talked to Russ later. Russ said he couldn't handle the situation. He was leaving. And it wasn't long after that I left. But you don't want to get to that point. You want to try to trim it. You want to try to mitigate the situation. If you're a dick of a DM, if you had the brown round training in the military and your specialty is getting people to work with each other no matter how they feel, then you might excel at this. I was not good at this. And so you have this opportunity to where you can force two people that hate each other's guts to work towards a common goal at the table. And it's really hard to do that. And it's not to be relied upon all the time, because there is the Blue Falcon possibility where some guy slips or he kind of trips his buddy as they're trying to do something, and oh, look, a bear's eaten my friend Russell. I am so traumatized. You don't want to have that. You really don't, because then you're going to have, if they stay at the table together, they're going to be having this constant battle that will detract from the overall game, and you'll kick both of them out. You don't want that. You want to probably trim one out of the game completely. And you don't want to have a repeat of that by saying, well, next campaign I'll let the other one join, because your players might really like not having one or either in the game, but you want to at least have a table that's staffed. Hey, Lamar, have yourself a great night, hon. You want to have a little bit of friction at the table, but you don't want to have all-out animosity. I'm looking for every way possible to ruin this player's game. I'm willing to sacrifice 8 hours of my week every week at a table with people I hate to make their life miserable. And when you have a player that's like that, you really have no choice but to get rid of them, and you have to let them go. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers my question. Yeah, for my own experience, most of the tables I've been at, it being yours or Jade's, everybody that you guys, for the most part, invited to tables, from my point of view, have all been really great people. The character known as Russ and Andrew were a special scenario, I have to say. But for a really quick for a scenario, when I was down in the shop I was working at, you paid to play. $5, you get to come in, you get to role play for like 4 hours. And if we had somebody that was just showing their ass front to start, the DM, it being me, had the opportunity to say, hey, you're not working well with the other group. I will be more than willing to give you back your $5. We could try this again at a later date. I hope you have a good night. Be kind, rewind, you know. So, with that being said, that is my point on that one. So you're at an end of a campaign, and the big bad has just been slain. The princess has been saved. The mayor wants to give you whatever, and you got a party of X amount of people, but all of them want to keep gaming. All of them want you to do another story or continuing on the original story, just B track. Now, with that B track, would you take like, hey, we'll get together in maybe a month, give me a little bit more time so I can get the rest of this campaign together, or do you just wing it until you have the right idea? Unfortunately, this probably doesn't work so well for epic levels, because once you hit epic levels, it's you're fighting things I don't want to deal with right now or try to figure out how to play right now. But with lower levels from like 10 to 15, hey, we can go, if we stop at 15, we can go to 20. If we stop at 10, we can go to X. How do you guys handle it? I will start with Kai.
Ooh, good question. Honestly, this goes back to like almost to my first statement of the players are the ones who have to decide at that point. If they're so interested that they're coming in and going, I want to keep playing these characters, I want to keep the story going. Well, at that point, they're setting the pace, they're setting a tone. They have motivation, they're going. At that point, I go from being the proactive ringmaster who's leading you by the nose, going, come, follow the storyline. They're the ones who are now taking the control. They're in the driver's seat. They're steering the damn campaign from this point forward. I'm the one who's now reacting. I get to now go, okay, now it's more, now I get to make the world react to what they're doing. And so if they're that engaged, they're that interested to keep pushing forward, they've got goals, agendas, plans. why put the boot on them and say, no, you can't have fun? Like, if they're energized and I still have at least some bit of my soul left in me, then yes, let them have the fun. Let them go. Let them see where they want to take the game and the storyline to. You might be surprised that, well, the story that you've been leading them through gave them enough to get them run with it. And you know what? Even if they are 20th level, you know what? There's enough weird ass shit in the universe. Once you have wizards able to open dimensional portals off into other realms of existence, screw it. If they want to keep pushing reality to the point where it explodes, guess what? They're now the new existential threats to the universe. Play with the fact that for once you're now being given the chance to actually take the governor off the fucking accelerator. If your players are wanting to go 110% of the reactor, let them go until it blows the fuck up. Let the campaign go at that point until the next smoke comes out. You know, have fun. Everything a dance machine at least once until it goes. But if they want to, don't tell them no. Just enjoy the game at that point. And the end at that point becomes when everyone's exhausted, mentally beaten down, and who knows, you might just have a game where it stops being something that you play with character sheets and with where the characters become more important. At that point, you just push the game off into a new direction. It's now entirely in chat rooms or in your email newsletters are coming across, and then you just play. Well, meanwhile, while our characters are off, fighting the dimensional hordes and the abyssalisk, who is currently trying to break through the ultimate world and freeze planets. Let's go play another game on the side, aka a new campaign, while you're still dealing with the fourth Black Crusade that's currently rampaging through the Hell realms. You can do that. You can actually, if players are that engaged, have your side game and have your main game. And you're not quite sure which one's which, especially if they're happening simultaneously. And it's even more fun when every once in a while a flaming corpse comes flying through the multiverse and then lands in a giant crater near your other party going, oh shit, what was that? Oh, that was a guy who was hit so hard he fell through 4 realms. Oh man, did my crit do that? Yeah, your crit did that. Fuck yeah. That was awesome. And at that point, you've got players who are more engaged than anybody else you're ever going to find. Don't shit on them for it.
I completely agree. G-Rock?
I mean, it all depends. When the story's over, the story's over. So, I mean, when you feel as a DM that you can only squeeze so much juice out of this orange, once you're not able to squeeze any more out of it, then move on. And you could actually, set it up if you want to as a generational type thing. The whole thing of being able to damn it totally all right, but yeah, totally being able to do some type of generational thing. Well, they've quelled the big bad for their generation, but maybe 2 years down the road, or 2 generations down the road, all of a sudden it's back. Oh, well, they've got, legacy swords, legacy armor. You can, which will tie the two together, because this is the armor my great grandfather wore when he slew the big bad, blah blah blah. And and then the players are already invested in this, and then they get to play their descendants. So, I mean, it's that could be another way that you keep the game going, but you're also restarting it. So it has you know, they're already invested in the history and lore of your world, whether it's a, whatever world it is. So, and by just continuing by just continuing the story, you can, especially going to some generational or something like that, you can, definitely push the amount that's going. And you can even if you're running a module, you can go in and tweak the module so it's completely different for the new folks. It may be the same way that they need to get from point A to the D, as the as Connell said, and but but the yeah, definitely making sure that if they're engaged, that's another way you can do it. If they're not engaged and they're like, oh god, we're finally done with this, that could be your thing to go, oh, okay, well, it's time to either rotate DMs or whatever. So yeah.
I want to finish it out with the giggity, and I'll start with go to Jade.
So your story has ended, and your players go, "What's next?" Well, you have two options. Kai said one option, and Jirok said the other. You can either keep playing in the same game world as the same characters, just moving on to higher and greater things, maybe ascending to godhood, or um, playing to the point where a great sacrifice must be made. Um, that's an option. I mean, I've played in games that I thought they were over at level 25, but we kept playing till level 45. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and those were fun games.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of really high, powerful, and very weird characters that just kept going and kept going because the story was there, it was available, and the GM was really great at stringing those things together. And he didn't really care about the power curve of things. He was there to tell us a good story. Then I have also seen the flip side of this, where you wrap up a story and the players are like, well, what do we do next week? And you're like, okay, you know what? Think of or gen up characters similar to what you got, or maybe different than what you got. Make them related, and we're gonna set this 3, 4, 5 generations down the road. Or they don't even have to be related at all. They could be, little kids who grew up learning of these great legendary heroes from thousands of years ago. Well, now the threat is back, and it's time to suit up and push some teeth in. Um, so, I mean, really, if you have a really great engaged group of people who just want to just keep going, keep gaming, um, one, that's amazing and a rare gem. Keep that around. Two, sometimes you can just gen up a story randomly. As a matter of fact, there's a way to do it with a deck of playing cards. Assign the different suits different meanings. For example, spades are something typically bad, and you assign a card value to do something special. Like the queen is a social encounter. Well, if you draw the queen of clubs, well, it's a good social encounter. It could be a good romance encounter or something. But anyway, there's ways to do it with playing cards that you can just gen a story, a 3-act structure story, in about 2 minutes, and you just have to decipher it from there. So there's multiple ways of continuing the game even after it's ended.
All right, that's a great answer. All three of you guys had a great answer. Now, Bruce, what do you have to say?
Well, you could run a game till its feasible conclusion, and they defeat the big bad. They have the story threads. Everybody's had their character arcs. You have a potential game where drink motherfuckers. You're playing in Tolus, and you find the source of the evil that's been drawing demons and conflictive celestial individuals into your realm and you've managed to neutralize it and you've put it down. But what next? You're 20th level. Well, you could continue the same players with a high level set of campaigns, with bigger damage numbers, with more complex character sheets if you so choose. You can go up to level 45. Or you could have those characters retire and some of them take up a position to where they have guest slots as NPCs in the campaign, and you start again with their progeny or with the friends or the nephews or nieces or people that were afflicted by their efforts. And so you run a reverse campaign where the sons and daughters of those slaughtered by your murder hobo PC party get to start a game. And now they get to start their climb into legacy and destiny. You could do that. You could completely do that. And it could make for a really cool campaign. You could run a campaign where you have two separate campaigns, and you have a traditional, like a DM runs on every other week, and on this odd week out, he runs another campaign in the same campaign world. And the players will find evidence of each other's doing stuff, and he never lets them actually cross paths until they're sufficiently high powered, like 12th level, 18th level, 24th level, whatever it might be. And if you so choose to do that, boy, you are a master of orchestrating events and setting up the campaign world to where you have the sandboxes for both campaigns planned out to where the players never actually touch, where they don't actually have a moderate conflict. You could do that. And I encourage that. It's hard to do. I've never done it successfully. They met at third level. There was a 15-player battle that lasted about a night and a half. And the victorious ones vowed that they were never going to play in a campaign like that again. I've not seen them at a table since then. That was 1998. But I will tell you that for those of you that are going to endeavor it, I wish you the best of luck. And for those of you that have a copy of Tolus, Drink Again, you should definitely open up that book and get some inspiration for how will you run your next table. That's my own personal perspective.
That's not easy to do either. It's worth it if you can pull it.
I would like go for it.
No.
Oh. I would like to put a feather really into Jade's cap. I've sat at his table multiple times over the years, and he has done the generational games. I might not have been at the first table where the game kicked off, but he has done variations of the general that first campaign he's tried, and I think it's a beautiful idea. I think if the world's already been built, continue going back to that well. I am a big fan of horror to the most part. The vampire, the werewolf nonsense. I always have been. The Strahd scenario. Strahd never dies. He comes back. The powers of evil will not let the evil die. So you can break it off into generationals. I think that would be a great campaign. Me personally, as of at the current moment, I'm running Rise of the Rune Lord, but through 5th edition. I have had 2 players today ask me, "Do you know of the campaign Return of the Rune Lords?" I'm like, "I know of it. Why? Is there any way that we can continue this campaign into that?" So they've already bought the tickets to the show. I just got to make sure I can get it off the tracks. And I think I did a Game of Thrones type game where I had the players play 2 different characters, one at the wall and one main story. I believe you were involved in that one, Jade?
I don't remember.
It was years ago. It was right before we all went our separate ways.
Yeah, that's been too long ago. That's been over a decade at this point.
You've drank and slept since then.
At least once.
So, with that being said, for my own take, what drew you into the game? What is your forte? If you're sitting not as a DM but as a player, if you're sitting at the table and the GM tells you, "Hey, buckle your seatbelts, and this is going to be a bumpy, long road," are you automatically going to say "Yay" or "Well, this might not be the game for me"? What's your first reaction? I will start with Kai.
If the GM hints that I can end up building an empire, building an industry base, be able to run nations, run organizations, run people, to use them as to do the one. I know everyone says gaming is all about fantasy and escapism. Well, as somebody who's at the bottom of the barrel and just a little grunt, being the guy who shapes worlds and murders people, not people on small numbers. I mean, the point where it's actually like where I'm trying to go for the high score here, where I look at entire countries as though they're just simply in my way. I'm aiming for Genghis Khan. If you could tell me that I can actually run a horde, I'm on board. If you could tell me I'm going to be the captain of a battleship, I'm on board. If you can tell me I'm going to run my own elite strike force of assassins, I'm there. I'm ready to go. But if you tell me I'm just going to be some little schmuck, and no matter what I do, I'm never going to get better than guy who's riding along in the little on a little roller coaster cart, waiting for the little. Here comes the build up. Click, 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 and here's your drop. Isn't it exciting? Okay, that was fun. If you tell me the entire game's gonna be on rails, I'm going to be bored as fuck and I won't be engaged. But if you tell me that I can set my mind to a task and either build or burn a galaxy by my whim and by my actions, you've got me hooked forever. So yeah.
Sorry, Baron G Rock.
It's a story. If it's got the story there, then I will go all in with it. I'm very story driven as a player. You know, I think that if you have a good story, that is where my immersion comes in. Is being immersed in the story and the lore and everything. So that's kind of my rubber stamp on it. Is that.
All right. Jade.
Let's see here. Things that keep me going in games. Um, I have to say a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of mystery. Maybe some political, like inter-geopolitical shenanigans. That keeps me interested. For the most part, I think I'm gonna agree with G-Rock that you give me a story that I can be literally anything. I can be this, ex-soldier who's or banned from the military because he's secretly the heir to the throne, and I don't discover that until I'm like level 15. That the family curse is lycanthropy. I'm going to be engaged as the story keeps going. If you feed it to me over time, so I mean, you really have to present the story like from the beginning at your section 0, like, hey, here's where it begins, here's where I'm hoping to take it, and you build me your character that you want to play in, and give me like 5 interesting facts or 5 points about that character that you want included in your story or in the story, and I'll make sure to write it in. If you've got a DM who's willing to go to that extent and write in the 5 points of every character and weave the story together in this entangling web of intrigue, mystery, and just lore building within the world, I'm sold. Like that's the kind of story I'm into. I like interconnected characters. I like interconnected characters to the lore of the world. If my character is part of this world, part of this living world, and it feels like it's a living world, I'm game. I'll keep gaming until heat death of the universe.
All right. And the only thing that survives is you, a cockroach, and some poor bastard that you're trying to save the cockroach from.
At the end of the universe, when the lights have gone out, there'll be three things left standing: me, you, or you, me, and the cockroaches, and me trying to defend the cockroaches from you.
Are the Can the cockroaches roll dice? Is all I care.
Maybe might fail protecting them from Connell.
Only if the cockroaches come from Beetlejuice.
You forgot Keith Richards. Keith Richards will be there too.
Oh,
I mean, you're not wrong.
he might be the cockroach.
You've heard everybody else's answer. I got to ask you, Connell. Got a question. What you've heard their answers? Do you want to ask me the same question, or do you want to evolve that question a little bit?
No, I'll ask the same question. That gives me a moment to think of the next question. I'll go with that answer.
Okay. What was the question you posed to the other three? Because I didn't mean to tune out, but I would pick up when you would have them answer back story, 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 story. And I'm thinking if this was a drinking game, the words, every time you heard the word story, you take 2 drinks. And I'd watch my chat get liver cirrhosis before it's over. Before this chat is over, we will all be going to the VA hospital. Anyway, have fun with your Remdesivir, kids. So you want to ask me?
What keeps you in the seat? How about that? What keeps you in the seat? Is it the people? Is it the story? Is it just your love of the game?
That's a very complex answer. The thing is that I love running a campaign to where my players are enjoying the time they spend with me. So it's a social aspect. It's really not a story aspect at all. It's me being able to sit down with my friends and we have a rule set that kind of gives us guidelines, and we have the ability to interact with each other, say some really nasty jokes to one another, act like total shitheads, maybe on camera sometimes, but we have a narrative that they're building and their character arc that maybe they're trying to find if they are that type of player where they do have a proposed character arc. Meanwhile, I'm able to give my players an evolving campaign which will go from we're dealing with Fae, or maybe we have giants on the horizon. No, we're fucking with greenskins. Oh God. And so you have to have this mindset where I want to keep my players off balance enough to where they don't get comfortable. I don't want them to think that like they've been here, seen this before. And we're running a game that's been out for the past just 13 years. And its bones have been in use since 1999 on the market. So I'm not running something that's brand new. We're not doing something that like you haven't seen this before. So we have people that have an idea of how they're going to min max their little McStabby halfling thief, and they know how to engineer a character that by 8th or 12th level is a virtual killing machine. He doesn't require a group to be with him for him to make mischief and to get guards on the prowl. And hopefully he's a good enough player where he's savvy enough where he can misdirect others, and he's glib of tongue enough to where he can do that. So I want to have all the players at the table have an idea of how they want to evolve as a character mechanically and mentally with this alter ego of theirs. And for me, what keeps me in the seat is the fact that I have a very big set of shelves of material to run. and I have a lot of reference material I can use if I want to run just stuff out of the book, much to Blaine's dismay, and just you enter a 20-foot by 30-foot chamber. There is a desk and a writing tablet on the oak grain finish. You see that a man is upset as you enter, and he gets up angrily out of the plush office chair. I need you to all roll for initiative. I don't want to have that game. I just saw Blaine have a flashback. We were middle schoolers. Oh God. I just had a pimple come out. So anyway, I want to have my players be able to feel like they have lived in the world, and I want them to be able to have a vested interest. Like there's a guy that plays in my game, Brooke, and the last campaign he had a thieves guild. He was the only one at the table that was invested in it because he had an actual thieves guild. He had achieved what mostly he wanted, and his wife, I gave him the Charles Bronson uh, evolving story where he found a wife and she got pregnant, and she crafted a set of knives for him to do good work with. And then another thieves guild, people from Orcus killed his wife, so he went into vengeance mode. And I gave him all those wonderful, wonderful story elements, and Brooke just embraced it. And he is stepping out of the game for a while because he's got to focus on some professional things. And I wish him the best of luck and hope he comes back. But he really liked it. And the things that keep me in the seat are being able to entertain my players and give them moments to where they feel like they actually are somebody else, and they don't have the same gripes that we all have today, where I have to wait an extra 10 minutes in line at Taco Bell because the fat 17-year-old kid can't make a fucking chalupa for me, or I'm not stuck in traffic behind this overturned tanker because he doesn't know how to drive and he was answering his Facebook notifications. I don't want to have you feel like you're that putz at my table. I want you to feel like your life is changing, and the events that are happening to you, you are in control of them. I want to make the players feel like that. They're not in control at all. I have a hex map. I have an idea of where they're going next. I have an idea of what they're going to be doing next. And I've given them a lot of options. I don't really care where they go, but they're going to have an exciting life getting there. And they might go for the peaceful route of negotiations and political maneuvering, which usually ends up with a knife in the belly, or they might go for an action-packed life with Tom the Barbarian, and they go whacking away at giants in the hills. Who knows? But what keeps me in the seat is the fact I don't know what's going to happen next. I have a lot of options to run, and the system I have that I picked for my retirement game is a very robust system that can handle about everything. And Calvinani says later on, what happens at the table, you could be sitting with your players years from now, and you might have lost touch, but you've reconnected for 30 minutes or for an hour, and you're talking about the fucking great times you had at the table. And other people are like, wow, that sounds like that was like a lot of fun. I want that. I want that.
That's how I seem to always recruit more players to my games, is when I'm hanging out with my friends and some of my work buddies are sitting here, and we're all just chit chatting back and forth, and the stories come up, and they're like, "That sounds like fun," and then I'm like, "You free on Sunday?" And then suddenly they're like, "I have no idea what I'm doing. Bring a notebook. That's all you need." And
Yeah.
suddenly, and then suddenly you got 3D people showing up at your house, and you're like, "So what am I doing?" A character building exercise. Here's a player's handbook. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'll walk you through it. Don't worry. And and then suddenly they make a character like, "What do I do?" Everybody else, Hayes the news, Hayes a new guy. While we get him ready for the game, and then everyone makes his life miserable, overwhelming him with every option on the planet for the next hour and a half. I've laughed. This is the greatest moment in the universe. Just watching a new player get trashed by old players is great. And then suddenly they're ready to go. They're ready to go. All right, I'm ready to have this. Okay, ready to get bored for the next hour? What do you mean bored? Yeah, role playing is actually pretty boring. No, it's not. Yeah, it is actually. You're all actually pretty boring. And then we get into the actual game, and they're like, "So when do I stab someone? In a minute." But we're all talking in a minute. But I want to stab someone in a minute. And then finally, like, fuck it, I'm rolling initiative. Fuck it, okay. Guess what? New guy started a fight. And they're like, okay, I guess new guy started a fight. All right, let's do this shit. And then suddenly we got a fight going on. Why? Because the new guy has to get his nose broken sometime. And well, and guess what? Now that new guy, he's got a story, and he can now share with other people. And then guess what? I'm at work doing it. I'm going, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm doing my damn job. And all of a sudden, new guy goes, that session was amazing. Actually, it was pretty mediocre. No, I thought it was amazing though. And then meanwhile, the other players are like, yeah, that was a pretty okay session. And then that one other guy goes, what the fuck are you four talking about? You want to go to breakfast? And
And the cycle continues.
No, yeah, I'm right there with you.
So no. The next thing he says, "What are you doing on Sunday?"
yeah, we do a Sunday. No, that's at breakfast. That's at breakfast. And when you sound about, they go, that sounds pretty interesting. What are you doing on Sunday? And then suddenly you got another player at the table.
So,
my favorite thing about this hobby is that majority of time, most of us lead pretty much regular lives.
Yep.
But when we are able to get together and flex our creative muscle, we can really have a lot of fun. And I know the game is working when everybody is together, or maybe even not. You might be somewhere in public for this, but one of your players, one of your players goes off on a Basil Fawlty like anger management tirade at 70 or 80 decibels, and he's just shrieking about how unfairly he's been treated by the other players. And that's when I know they're invested. That's when I know they're having a game that they really are into, and they're like, no, I always get the short shrift. I'm never getting the chance to do what I'm supposed to do. I created this character to do these things, and you always fucking take me out of these. When they start arguing amongst each other over their roles, just if you're a DM at that table, sit back and let them argue. Because eventually, like a dog fight, you'll have one dog come out on top, and then you can continue.
Hey, look,
Or
those
you'll have
mushrooms
one.
over there.
Or you'll have one, dog slap a column.
Yeah.
So really quick, extra 500 points to XP to name the movie that Bruce was just talking about a minute ago. And for I guess it's getting about that time. I'm gonna make this maybe the second to last question I want is when crafting a table and making it go, do you prefer to play with new players or people that you game with for the last 15 to X amount of years? I will start with Kai.
If I have my dream, they're all going to be veteran players who I know and work with. But let's be honest, that's a dream. So I'm going to take the table I've got, because assembling a new one from scratch, or trying to call up all of my old friends and go, hey, are all of you free? Never. We are never free. We are all married. We all have kids. We all have jobs. None of what day do we all have off? Every other day of the week besides the one that you want. Oh, so that means we're going to have no game whatsoever. But you can all chat with us in our Skype group, and we'll continue to be NPCs in the background of your actual game. You're going to run for all the young people who have no idea who any of us are and don't know any of our tricks. And I'm like, I'm following what you're saying here. So you tell us the plot you're going to run through, and we'll run the evil people in the background. Is that okay? Yes. All right. So here's the plot line, and then watch 4 or 5 veteran players sit back and go, all right, and this is how we're going to screw with every last one of those players in a way that they won't even realize we're screwing with them. Why? Because we know you, we know how you run, we know how you're going to abuse those guys. So we're going to help you abuse them by giving you for every NPC you could ever ask for. So will you stat them all out for me? Oh yeah, we'll stat them all out. We'll make sure all the rules are all perfect. Better than you can do it. So we know that you can't actually do the mechanics right. I know how to do mechanics. No, you don't. You're right. You're right. I'm sorry. And because when you got 5 min maxers who are all sitting here going, we can build a better character than you can. I'm like, I hate all of you. You're a GM. Your job is to hate us. You're right. And therefore I go and use their work to go make 5 to 6 other people utterly miserable. And that's a good campaign.
Okay. Wow, mildly statistic. I can get along with that. Baron G Rock.
Once again, Kai's. Stop sticking me after Kai, because after his rant, my brain is like,
Do you want to mulligan? I can bounce over to Jade.
yes.
All right, Jade, you're up next.
Oh man. See, I've had new and I've had old players at my tables. I've had, veterans in the hobby for 15, 20 years sit at my table. I've also taught new players how to play. If I were to pick, my ideal table, I would say I want a good mix. I want people who know the flow of the game, but not necessarily rules lawyers. Um, I want people who are fresh to the game, who have these amazing, creative, wonderful ideas that, you don't, the people who, are kind of shy and don't want to always express themselves because they're too afraid. I want them at my table so that they can grow and express themselves and show us all of their creativity. So I mean, I think having a good mix of veteran and new players is kind of important to be at my table. Um, I mean, if I was to start a game up right now with 6 players, I would want maybe 2 veteran players and 4 new players. And I say the 2 vets because I want people there to help mitigate some of the game flow questions while not saying, hey, if you do this, then you can do this, then you can do that, and with the rules you can break this, and then do a triple X combo over here, and rip this guy's face off. I don't want that level of that. I want someone to just go, oh yeah, so if you do that, here's what happens, and then just leave it at that. It's like, so well, how do I roll this check? Well, you take that big round multi-sided dice right there, the one with 20 sides, and you throw it at the table and hope you don't get a 1. Um, so I mean, to me, vet and new player mix is what I like to have at my tables.
All right, back to you, Baron, or do you need another mulligan?
I will drink this mulligan in honor of the mulligan that I took before. No, I like, there are times it just depends on the mood and what I'm running. The if I'm running something that's going to be more complex, I like to have veteran players there that I don't have to hold their hand through something that complex. Where if I am, if I'm rolling something that's, kind of a starter slash, uh, mid level, mid playing level, not actual character level, but player level type of scenario, then you can have a mix, and I kind of agree with what Jade said. There is definitely having the mix of at least 1 or 2, not to show them how to break it, but just help with the this is how we do this, this, and this. So it's kind of like it's not the here's Minolia, and we're gonna just break it all. No. We're here. Here's a paper and pen, and roll these shiny. Oh, the shiny math rocks. You will like these. And then next thing you know, they have all the shiny math rocks too. And and the shiny click clacks. Yes. Wait. How does that one character say it, Jay?
How does Pock say it? Shiny math rocks. They make that click clack sound. Want the more? Oh, the more. Something like that.
Yes. Excellent. Yes. But no. Yeah, and like I said, it basically comes down to what Bruce changed his name again. Jesus. It's gonna be. I'm glad we're almost over for the night. My brain's like, yeah. So I'm done.
All right. Pull the Conqueror, you're up next.
It's a great
So
movie.
you're asking about what players I want to have at the table.
Yeah.
I prefer to have veteran players that I've ran with before. I mean, I don't mind new blood, but getting them up to speed and like, hey, this is old school style gaming, so I need you to kind of forget about the safe space and the safety pin bullshit. I need you to forget about all those garbage items that were on Twitter and Facebook for the past 10 years because none of that shit matters. It is what matters is the conversation you and I have and how you interact with the people at the table. And that's what fucking matters. If you can't handle that, doors over there, please use it. Otherwise, stay here and learn how we were broken in and got into this hobby and made this hobby. And that's how I feel. I don't want to have any training wheels on. I don't like session zeros. I believe session zero is just the 45 minutes that you have where you are talking about the campaign and the players are generating their characters and they are interacting with each other as to what build or type they're going for. I think that's more healthy for the game table than to actually have a we're going to have a session zero and there are some no words that we cannot say at this table. We want to make sure that we want to have an open and inclusive and diverse group of gamers. Meanwhile, everybody that's there has got an MC in their name because their dad gets a sunburn after 30 minutes of doing roofing work. Okay? Don't fucking tell me that bullshit. All right. So you want to have vet players at your table because they already know your style of gaming. If you have new people show up, you want to have them be either their kids or nephews or people that are already in their, in salesman's words, warm market. You want to have people they've already heard your name a couple times, and so you want to have them. If you have to get absolutely new players, your mileage may vary. That's the best I can tell you. I'm sorry, kids. I ain't got nothing nice to say about it. But there's been a lot of times in the last year and a half, 2 years, where people have sat down at my table physically or remotely. And about 45 minutes in, I thought to myself, I'm done with this player. And I text everybody else on Discord, what do you think of him? I can't stand him. And we boot. We get rid of him. And it's nothing against that person, but they've got to mesh. They must mesh with the table. If you don't have that, you're going to have an odd man out situation and you're going to have the constant Kirk Hammett poor me bullshit story that Metallica had for over 10 years. You really don't want that. Now, Kirk Hammett's a very talented bassist, but you don't want to have somebody at your table all the time mining for pity or for victimization. So stop with that. Let them go to another table. Let them go somewhere where some other DM is going to give them a giant hug, maybe a reach around, a rub and tug, happy ending, whatever it is, that you don't have to deal with it. And maybe if they want to get spoiled by that sort of treatment, and inclusivity and diversity is how we play. And if the dice come up with a no number, then you succeed anyway. Okay, so let's just say that we don't need that. What you need to do is just let the game go. You let your players do as they do. You want to have them do the majority of recruitment for you when you're starting a new game. You already have an idea of who you want to play the barbarian. You already know who you like as a wizard or as a sorcerer. You know in your head as a DM who you get along with. And damn it, Bob, why did you quit your job and get this other job? It ruins my fucking synergy on Saturdays, the table you're missing. We need somebody like you. Well, Bruce, there's a guy I know and he's kind of like me. And I think most of the table will get along with him pretty good. And it's a hit. It's great. And there will be other times where you have a Carl sit at your table and he eats your pie one quarter at a time and he makes the most god awful fucking story at the moment. But for the next 10 years, you talk about Carl and the pecan pie.
God damn it, Carl.
So you want to have you don't want to get new people all the time. The new people are the lifeblood of the hobby, absolutely. But you know what? You're not Watsy. You have a garage game, you have a home game, you're not running Adventurers League. You're trying to get old gracefully without busting a fucking vein in your forehead, arguing about the merits of some garbage hardcover Watsy just put out. You have every right to run a game your way. You never have to abide by what you read on a forum, the internet, what a magazine might say about you, and you have every right to use poo poo words if you so choose. Your players, your players, for all and for everything, every bit of grief they give you, they are your lifeblood. The ones that already know you should be the ones that if you have to mine for new players, you don't go out and do it. You get one of their friends, you get their wife, or you get their best friend to come sit at the table, and maybe they'll enjoy that time you spend together. That's
Yeah.
that's what I got for you.
No, that's
No, that works. That works. I'm gonna say my piece really quick, and I know we just hit the 2 hour mark. I will make my piece, and we'll take it from there. As being of both sides, where I ran a campaign at a game shop, and every week began new players, which was fun. And please make this stop now. And having my dream team, I think with today's technology, there's a lot of people out there. I don't know anybody who doesn't really have a laptop or a PC. Internet is, internet's almost in everybody's houses. I know it's not in everybody's house, but there's a lot of people that have internet. Virtual tabletop gaming is now a thing. And if you're willing to go through it, you can make your dream team as long as it works. And my dream team is people I game with in the past, and maybe your cousin Sally, who has red hair and green eyes. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. And so, with that being said, tonight was my choice of topics. I hope everybody had a good time, and I will see you all next week.
Well, before we actually cut out of here, Connell, what do you have coming up this week?
Hopefully by this coming Thursday, I will have my first video out. God only knows if I'll get A, subscriber, or B, it'll be any good. But by Thursday, you'll see a video from me.
Okay. Jade, have you got anything coming up?
Nothing in particular. I obviously haven't started a YouTube channel or anything. I have no real designs on it yet. Don't know if what I say is interesting enough. If it is, then I might consider it.
Okay. Well, I mean, don't forget you can always do random rants. We have someone else that does that.
Yeah, I think you got random rants covered.
no, no.
What about you, Kai? What are you doing?
Fighting the great beast of time and hoping for a chance of getting to sit down and record something and have it not be devoured by my computer whenever I do finally do it, because the potato does not like rendering. So I must find new ways to render that's faster and not 4 hours with bugs.
All right, Bruce, what do you got coming up this week?
I really think that if I got tomorrow off, I'm going to release a video. It might not be a live stream, but it's going to be me painting and just discussing all the bullshit for the past 3 weeks that I've wanted to make a video about, but everybody else did a really good video on it, so I kept my mouth shut. But I really want to rant about how women can feel however they want. Frost is not the arbiter or the judge of how men should see women. I would hope not, at least, because it looks like Bieber. Uh, that might be the only thing. Saturday, I'm going to be hanging out with some friends away from my computer, so I'll be pretty happy for once. Wait, never mind. We're all going to be stuck inside because of weather. Fuck you, winter. Yeah, go ahead, Garrett. Oh wait, we got meme review. We have meme review.
Well, hold on. Before we do the meme review,
When?
Now we'll be doing it after Garrett.
all right. So with me, I've got a few things coming up. I've got an interview with Taylor Lane, who is an author with the OSR. Those of you who've been following stuff with Legion of Myth, they did a huge thing on this and whatnot. So yeah. Also next week I do have Tablebreakers. Tablebreaker Gatekeepers, keeping everything straight. Is going to be the best mundane magic items that you allow at your table. So the panel is going to be going over stuff that they allow at their table, and basically what they like to throw up there for their players to be able to definitely latch on to. And I think that's pretty much everything that I've got. Now, I will say also next week, I don't know if I'm going to be here, guys. Just for the simple fact of I'm going to be training about 2.5 hours away from home, and I will probably be driving, so I will be here as soon as I can get here. But I will probably not be here at the beginning of the session. So just wanted to put that out there for everybody. So that is all I have. We definitely want to thank everybody for taking their time out to listen to us talk about stuff that we that we love here. So what I'm going to do, I know you guys are going to do the meme review. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and in my stream now, and folks, we will catch you next